Hey guys, happy Tuesday. It's Brian Davis here from Spark Rental, and I am joined today by Kevin Christensen. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Absolutely. So, Kevin was referred to us by Tim Dooley, who has worked. He's been a longtime audience member with Spark Rental and has worked with Denny and myself with helping us test the software and stuff. So Tim is definitely a friend of the show and a friend of Denny's and ours, and he is friends with Kevin as well. So you referred him over, and Kevin, I'm so excited to talk to you today about your real estate investments, your transition to retirement at a young age. So you started your career in the Marine Corps, and then you transitioned to civilian life and got into real estate investing. So talk us through kind of how you got into real estate investing in the first place.
So well, I did. I started in the Marine Corps, and then I went into programming. Climbed around in the banking world for the last 15 years or so, 16 years, and about 7 years ago, we got into e-cigarettes, so the vapor industry. My wife was a smoker. I've never smoked in my life, and I really wanted her to try it. We saw it online. Somebody that we know tried it, and it worked. So I ordered it for her without even telling her. She loved smoking, and I hated it. In 6 days, she quit smoking, and July 25th was her 7-year anniversary of not having a cigarette.
That's great.
So
Congratulations.
it immediately made me think there's something to this. And my brother and I had been talking about investing together for a while. He was a contractor in Iraq, and
And also a Marine before that, right?
he was a Marine before that, correct? We were kind of thinking long term. What's a business that we could build up? Real estate hadn't really even entered the picture yet. We had kind of talked a little bit about maybe, buying some commercial space or something, but we didn't know anything. So we really didn't pursue that. Although our holding company is called Smash and Crash Properties because the
Love it.
original intent was to buy property. And it's just kind of fate that it came back around 4 or 5 years later to doing real estate. But anyway, we were in a scenario where we needed to find a way to get a vape shop opened and do it quickly. The closest one to me was about an hour drive.
Oh,
And
wow.
if I was going to, this was literally about my wife. It was never about money in the beginning. It was about keeping my wife from smoking. So I said, well, how do we open one closer and we can help other people in the process? My brother put up a pretty substantial sum of money. We basically like I said, July 25th was when she quit smoking. I signed our first lease on September 1st.
On a
So
retail shop.
correct. So a month and a week later, we had developed a brand, developed a mission statement, developed products. We were manufacturing our own e-liquids,
Wow.
hired staff, and then we had the shop built out, and we formally opened on December 1st. We unofficially opened the weekend before Thanksgiving. And we had a hell of a ride. I mean, we went from one location to 5 in 3 years. We were the largest chain in the state. Unfortunately, that industry is being just thrashed by the government. There's a lot of false information. They're making regulation that is heavily restricting that business because it has tremendously impacted Big Tobacco's financials. For anybody that doesn't know, Big Tobacco is a massive income stream for the United States government. So they use their lobbyists in ways that little guys like me can't afford to do. And they regulate us out of business with legal loopholes and garbage. I suspect September 9th, the results of the deeming regulation came down just a couple weeks ago. I suspect you're going to see many, many vape shops closing over the next 6 months to a year. Only the ones that are well capitalized and very efficient. And I'll be the first to admit, I had never run a retail business before. I don't believe for a second I did it perfect. I'm sure there's things we could have done better. But we were doing very well at our height. I was making more money than I've ever made in my life by a lot.
And how did you transition from retail to real estate investing?
So, well, that's what I'll tell you. So in 2016, they came out with this thing called the deeming reg, which is just what came down on September 9th. And it basically was them saying that every manufacturer, which is what we were, we had 3,600 SKUs of our own liquid that we created. You had to submit all that for testing and be approved by the FDA. Anybody that is in any industry that's in FDA approval process knows that the whole process is a scam. It's a way for the government to take your data in and say yes or no, are you hurting our business, which is big tobacco. So of the thousands and thousands of submissions from vape shops across the country, to my knowledge, they approved 4, and all 4 of them are owned by big tobacco companies. So it's pretty clear in a way that there's a system set up for failure for the little guys. It is what it is. But when they announced that in 2016, August of 2016, we kind of had a feeling that the deck was stacked. It was not going to go our way. You can't beat the government. I don't care what industry you're in. If the government wants you done, you're done.
Well, that's true.
And yeah, it was really hard to swallow. We are the Delaware ATF and the DEA. We're the staple that they tell every other shop how they should act. In 7 years, 5 locations, we've never sold to a minor. We've never done a straw purchase that we actively knew about. We've never let somebody buy without ID. So we've done it the right way and the ethical way from day one.
So talk us through how you got into residential real estate investing from opening retail shops.
Yeah. So what happened is when that reg came out in 2016, I called my brother up and I said, I think instead of continuing to expand, because at the time that's what we were doing, we were just opening shop after shop. We did it all ourselves. We built them out physically, built out the bars, everything ourselves. So that was my introduction to construction. I learned how to build doing these bars. I said to him, I think we had about 40 grand in the bank at the time in play money, I guess. And I said, I think we should take this money and we should go after some type of real estate. I feel like, the nail is in the coffin at this point for the vapor industry. And I was really worried that if we spend all this time and energy on vaping, we're going to lose everything. So let's diversify a little bit. And I started doing some research in probably August or September. It had to be late August because the deeming reg came out in August. And then September, I started kind of just looking around. And actually, I'm sorry, it was 2018, not 2016. So just me, I got really interested in wholesaling. I saw that there was some opportunity there to make some money without spending a bunch of money. I felt like we had enough to do a property with 40 grand, but we didn't have enough to really scale or do something busy. And I've been an incredible salesman my whole life. I was number 1 at Bank of America for a long time when it was still MBNA in the department that I was in. And I felt like there was an opportunity to meet these sellers, get them under contract for a good price, and then do my thing. So I spent about 3 or 4 months just consuming everything I could consume: YouTube videos, podcasts, a lot of Max Maxwell, just wholesaling 101 from the.
Kevin, you were telling me about your first wholesale real estate deal where you approached an 80-year-old couple that was interested in selling their home.
Correct. So yeah, anyway, I walked up and I explained to them that I was interested, and I told them, look, I'm an investor. I appreciate it. Your home is beautiful. Your homes, it was actually 2 houses. What's the bottom line? What's the best number you can give me? If I was to pay cash, what's the best number? And the guy said, I got to make my money too, but I really like you. You didn't come in here and pick the house apart like every other guy who's come here. He said, but I couldn't go a dime under 190. And my jaw was on the floor. I kept my composure. I said, I'm going to have to think about it. And in my head, I'm jumping around doing backflips because I know this house needed almost nothing. It's worth, he was already asking 60 grand under what it was worth. And now he knocked another 100 off just because I was nice to him.
Wow.
So I went home and I was all excited. I'm amped up telling my wife, like, one of my little short-term goals with the wholesaling was to pay my student loans off. And I only had about 30,000 in student loans. So I'm telling my wife, like, I'm going to sell this thing to somebody for 250 for make a $60,000 wholesale fee and be in and out of this deal in no time flat. And while I'm getting all amped up and excited and thinking about paying my student loans off, my wife is like, why don't we keep it? Like, who gets the other 100K? And I said, well, whoever buys it gets that equity. That's their benefit for being the buyer. And she said, well, why would you sell it then? Why wouldn't we just keep it? And this is after, by the way, she spent months telling me she did not want to be a landlord. So it kind of threw a wrench in it. And that deal ended up, it was my first offer, but it ended up being probably my fifth or sixth closing, because once I put it under contract, it took almost 11 months to close because of the layout of the property. It's 2 parcels on one deed, and the 12-car garage stretches across the 2 parcel lines. So basically the first 2 banks wasted 3 or 4 months each of my time, and then at the end said, we need you to tear the garage down in order to make this deal happen. And
Oh, wow.
I mean, we're talking about an $80,000 garage. I was like, yeah, there's absolutely no chance of me tearing this garage down. So, fast forward, I found a bank to do it. They did it as a commercial loan. They put all the debt against one side of the property and basically ignored the other side. I did have to sign paperwork saying that if I sold anything, it would be sold together. So I cannot separate them and sell one.
Right. Makes sense.
Which is fine. It's a local credit union. I have no intention of ever selling them anyway. And I rent the rear one out. Actually, I rented them both out. I think the debt service on the property was like $840, and the rear rent is $1,550 a month, and the front rent was $1,400 a month. So I was pulling $2,900 off that one unit, and
That's great.
they don't use the garage. I use the garage for all my storage.
Okay.
So, I mean, I got a free 4,000 square foot storage unit on top of all of that. And so the front unit is now, the tenant moved out, and that property has become a short-term rental and probably generates $3,500 to $4,500 a month.
That's great.
So it's been very well.
Now, since then, have you continued buying properties to hold long term, or have you been doing more wholesaling? How has your strategy kind of evolved over time?
Yeah, so a little bit of everything. I've done 2 or 3 wholesale deals. I have 14 long-term rentals total, and I just finished my 5th and 6th short-term rentals.
That's great.
So I'm up to almost like about 20 properties. I've done about 26 or 27 deals. But the last couple have been with partners, and I'm starting to realize that I can get a lot more done if I don't try to be the solopreneur and do everything myself.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely something to leveraging other people's time, not just other people's money, as a real estate investor. So you retired actually earlier this year. So walk us through kind of that transition to retirement, and how you were able to scale up your portfolio to get to that point.
Yeah. So I mean, in October, well, I guess we're in October. This will be 3 years, I believe, this month I've been doing this. My goal 7 years ago when I started with my vape shops was to retire by 45. I'm 39 right now. I had the vape industry not taken a downward spiral, I would have retired probably 2 or 3 years ago in a very, very comfortable lifestyle. The vape industry, like the initial trajectory of that business was so skyward. It was very exciting. I mean, I was very, my brother and I both, we probably would have retired our parents. It was a very, very lucrative business when it started. Um, that all fell apart. We pivoted to real estate at the right point. Um, I I would think that I probably could have dragged my job out for another year. My Once I started like escalating in real estate, I started scaling. I changed my goal from 45 to 40. I wanted to retire by the end of my 40th year, which was, so I'll be 40 in May, and then so a year from that. So May of 23 was my goal, was to retire by then. However, life throws curveballs sometimes that you have to prepare for. I live my life with a pretty high level of integrity and honor. And I mean, it's a Marine Corps principle, but my mother was a Marine. Both my brothers are Marines. It's the way we were raised. And I treat people with kindness, even when they don't deserve it. I try to treat people better than they deserve to be treated. Um, I was on the phone with my boss about something, and he was very disrespectful, and he hung up on me. And it was just one of them things where my passive income was already exceeding my day job. And I had a pretty good day job, a six-figure corporate job. And I just couldn't swallow him hanging up on me. And it may or may not have been a good decision. Only time will tell. It's definitely impacted my ability to scale for the last 6 or 7 months, because now I'm pulling a significant amount of income from my business in order to pay my
Right.
bills.
Rather than reinvesting it.
Right. But my peace of mind, I woke up every morning. I worked for that company for almost the entire time, or just more than the entire time I've owned my vape shops. I started there in February of 14. I started the vape shops in August of 14. So I was there just about a little over 7 years, and I had never woken up and been, like most people, they get up and they dread going to work. I loved my job. I loved what I did. I worked from home full time. There were people at the office I didn't really care for, but I didn't have to interact with most of them. I was in a silo most of the time doing my own thing. So the morning after he hung up on me on a Thursday. And the next morning when I went to get out of bed, I was just like, I don't want to do this. Like, why am I putting up with this? This is nuts. And I sat down and talked with my wife. And, if it was up to me, like I wanted to do like the World Star exit, I was going to call him up and cuss him out and tell him every which way what I think of him as a human being. And he had taken
Blaze of glory.
yeah, he had taken some real unprofessional shots ever since he found out I had a side business. He had taken some real unprofessional shots at me in meetings and during my reviews, and I had swallowed it all because at the end of the day, I still had that income coming in. I didn't care. And
Well, that's the beauty of passive income, right? Is that
yeah, that's
it
it.
means
And
you're not
him,
reliant on your 9 to 5 job to pay your bills.
no,
So
and him being rude and offensive, that doesn't define me. That defines him. So I swallowed it for probably 2.5, 3 years. And luckily, my mother, who is still one of my biggest supporters, and my wife talked me off the ledge, and they said, listen, put your 2 weeks notice in, do it the right way. You're a better person than that. Don't go in there and make a scene. And that's what I did. I put my 2 weeks notice in. He was absolutely stunned. I was the only guy in the company who did what I did. So they were in the middle of launching a new operating system for the whole company, and I was an integral part of that. So it was very, it was going to be stressful for them for me to walk. And because I had so much access, and it was, an animosity leave, they fired me the next day. Essentially they kicked me out of the company the next day, which is what a lot of big companies do. When I left Bank of America, they did the same thing. They basically locked me out of the system immediately and then gave me 2 weeks of pay plus all my vacation. So I ended up getting paid for more than another month, at which is wouldn't have happened if I had stormed out and flipped the desk over like I wanted to.
Right. Well, and
So
that's your mom and your wife know a thing or two
yeah,
in
they saved a little bit of money in my pocket, and you know, I really haven't even thought about it other than when someone brings it up. I truly, I wake up every morning when I feel like getting up, and I either go to work at one of my properties if I'm in the mood to, or if I'm not, I stay home and spend time with my wife or my kids. Or I just spent a month in Florida renovating a short-term rental property that I bought with a partner.
Nice. Nice. Well, so, before we wrap things up, I just want to give you a chance to share any major investing lessons that you've learned over your time as a real estate investor. What are the things that you have learned that you wish you knew a couple years ago, that you wish you knew when you were just getting started?
Phew,
What would have made a big difference for you if you'd
we,
known what you
yeah,
know now?
yeah, we don't have enough time in a session for that, but I would say that um, taking action is, and I say this in the forums all the time on Bigger Pockets, you got to take the leap. Like there's so many times where I'm scared, I'm worried, I'm nervous, I'm using the house I just did in Florida, $435,000 cash, 100% of it my partner put up. I did not put up a dime, and I picked the house. I renovated it, I furnished it, and I put it on Airbnb, all telling this guy what I think is going to happen with this property, and it's terrifying. It really is. I mean, you're betting a large chunk of someone else's money, and even if it's your own money, either way, it doesn't matter. It's the point is it's very intimidating, and if you just see it through, and the Marine thing is adapt and overcome. That's really how I live my life in real estate. You're going to have problems. You're going to have bad days. I just had two of my employees called me in the last 2 days and told me that they're moving on to different jobs, and I'm in the middle of a couple major projects. So I've got to hire a couple more guys, and it really is just take action and be patient. You will see the light on the other side of this if you stay patient and be kind to everybody. I love what's his face, Tony Robinson has that be kind thing in the background, and that is the thing that guides me in just about everything. No matter how mad I get or how angry I get, I try to stay positive, I try to stay patient, and I treat everyone with kindness, and karma comes full circle and lands me in the right place on my feet every time. And partner,
Well, I'm,
partner. That's the other big piece of advice. Don't. I am a solopreneur. Like I do everything with my brother, but he's been in Iraq the entire time as a contractor. So it's shared money, but 100% my effort. And I've gained a lot more in the last 12 months by partnering with people than I did in the last 2 years.
going it
Um,
alone.
Doing it all by myself. And yeah, there's just not enough hours in the day for you to do everything. And I don't care how smart you are. I'm a pretty smart guy. I'm good at everything I do. You're always going to have people around you who are better than you,
And
and
you
you
only have
have
so
to be
many
able
hours
to
in the day.
absorb that. Yep.
I mean, you can only do so many things yourself. So, Denny and I say all the time, real estate investing is a team sport.
Yep.
You imagine going out and trying to play football against a whole team if you're by yourself. I mean,
Yep.
it's the same concept. You need a team of people around you who you can trust. And to your point about being open and honest in all of your dealings with people, that's how you end up having good partnerships, right? It goes
Yeah.
both ways.
And it plays. I just had an estimate for a construction gig yesterday where the people asked me to fluff the invoice because it was in an opportunity zone and they wanted to get more kickback from the opportunity. And I said, absolutely not. That's not who I am as a person. I said, if that's what separates me from getting this job, then it's going to have to be somebody else, because I don't lie to my wife and kids. I don't lie to my friends. I'm certainly not lying for a stranger. So it's,
Absolutely.
I'll do the job for you. I gave you a good price, but I'm not going to pad an invoice to help somebody make more money. And whether it's right or wrong, I'm sure there are plenty of guys that would do it. It's just not me. That's not who I am. I'm not a real religious guy, but I'm a firm karma guy. And I believe that what goes around comes around.
Me as well. And to speak to that point of yours, I think when you approach all of your business dealings with that level of integrity, it ends up weeding out the potential partners that would be bad partners, right? The people who don't have that same sense of integrity.
Yeah.
So you are left working with people who kind of reflect back your own values, and it just makes your partnerships that much stronger. I'm a firm believer in that.
I hope that's the truth. And I've only got two partners at this point, my brother and a guy named Micah. And Micah and I are very aligned. And I think that's why we get along so well. And my brother and I, obviously, we came from the same household. So we have pretty good similar values. And I'm a principle over everything guy. You could offer me $10 million if there's a string attached to it that I don't believe is ethical. I'll walk away without even thinking about it and not feel 1 second of guilt or regret.
Well, Kevin, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share with audience members, maybe people who are just getting started, their first deal, second deal, third deal, anything that you want to share to call this episode complete?
Yeah, don't be afraid to spend a little bit of money. I think the biggest thing that hamstringed me in the beginning was I wanted to do everything myself. And I wanted to save every dime. And that there's a time and a place for that. My first couple deals, I did everything myself. It worked out great. I came in under budget. But you can get a lot more done if you're willing to let a professional do something. The amount of time it takes me to do something that an expert can do in a quarter of the time, you end up making up for it on the time frame anyway.
No question.
By the way, I bought my very first, probably 6 or 8 leases were all from a Spark rental package that I bought way before I knew all you guys.
Oh, well, I'm certainly glad to hear that. Gratified to hear it.
Yeah. It's just funny coincidence, but don't be afraid to pay for stuff. Don't be scared. Get 3 estimates, take the average, take the one in the middle, take the one that gives you the best gut feeling. And know for a certainty and a fact that you are going to get ripped off at some point in this business. It's a nature of the business. Contractors, lawyers, somebody is going to take you for some money, whether you're happy about it or not. You just got to look at it like gambling, right? It's an investment. Once that money's on the table, you have to mentally let go of it. It's gone. And if you get it back, great. If you don't, you move on with your life. But you cannot get emotional and get overly emotionally invested in numbers and money. And I've seen some horrible breaks that people have had in this business already. And I lost 10 grand on a house that ended up not coming through. And the lady laughed in my face that took the 10 grand from me, because we didn't have anything in writing, and she knew I would have no leg in court to get it back.
Yeah, I mean, I've lost quite a bit of money in real estate too over the years. But if you look at it as the cost of tuition, right? Yep. It's the cost of education. And if you keep going, you are going to earn a lot more money than you lose over the years.
I agree.
And it does take a certain amount of investment of both time and money to get to the point where you can consistently earn high returns on real estate.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, I really appreciate
rocket science.
Yeah, exactly. It's not rocket science. Anyone can figure it out. Anyone can be successful in real estate investing, but it does take some time. It does take a little bit of money invested to get there. To learn the skills and knowledge that you need to know. And in forming those partnerships with the people that you need, whether it be realtors, property managers, investing partners, contractors, appraisers and home inspectors. I mean, you just, like we talked about earlier, it's a team sport, and you're going to have a few missteps along the way.
Too. Like if you come across team members, and I'll use team members because it's broad, whether it's an attorney, a title company, a contractor, if you come across people that are ethically aligned with you and deliver their product good, even if their price might be a little bit higher than somebody else, you have to treat those people like gold and hold on to them, because there are so many more slimy ones than good ones. I find that it's really, really important to hang on to the people that treat you well and do the job and deliver the product that you pay for, without any drama. There's a little bit of I don't know, I guess advantage to having stress-free transactions versus ones. I mean, I've had some that are just a nightmare. The paperwork is a nightmare, everything. And then I have guys that just handle everything, and I show up at the closing table and everything's perfect. And I love that. And I'm willing to pay a little bit more for that because I can focus on everything else I'm doing and move forward.
I couldn't agree more. You work with good people you can trust, and you can sleep at night. It's
Yep.
that simple. Well, Kevin, thank you again for your time today. We really appreciate you coming on. If people want to connect with you, where can they reach you? Where can they connect with you?
I'm on Facebook, Kevin T. Christensen. My email is kevin@thechristiansengroup.net, just like my last name. I'm a pretty open book. I've had people telling me I need to write a course forever now, and I'm just too lazy to do that. But I help tons of people for free all the time. I'll answer any questions. If you message me on Facebook, I'm usually pretty good about answering those. And I try to see as many people make it forward and be successful as I can with no gain for me. My gain is helping other people get to the point where I live a pretty comfortable life, and I hope everybody can get to that.
Well, we certainly hope so too, and that's why we do interviews like this, so that people like you can share your story and help other people get their first couple deals going, because it's those first few that are the hardest. So,
Yep.
Kevin, thank you again for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we will certainly be in touch with you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, bye now.
See you.